Hi everybody, Richie from Team Nimiq here. I'm sitting here with part of the team, the core team, the blockchain engineers. The other part of the team are working remotely in different parts of the world, but now that we are working here in hackathon style to get Albatross testnet out, we got some questions from the community and I wanted to ask these guys. So let's start with the first one. It's about Albatross. So the question is, what pros and cons has the Albatross testnet shown? Obviously, it's in bare bones right now and has to be fine-tuned for a specific algorithm. But what are the expected results and actual results gotten so far? Did you meet unexpected problems, issues that complicate consensus model, and did some results exceed your expectations? So basically, it's like a summary of Albatross, how it's going. So I think maybe Jeff.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not ready yet. We're basically working on the on finishing the code so that we can start the testnet. I think because of that, of course, we don't have results right now, but the general idea will be to see how Albatross behaves in like a real-world testnet, right? Not only on paper or simulation, which we already have. Have we encountered some problems? Well, there's always issues when you're trying to do the first implementation of a specification. There is a lot of stuff that needs to be decided that not necessarily was thought in the specification itself or in the paper. But I wouldn't call them exactly problems. It's more like, like defining little stuff that may or may not have been or that is not explicit in the paper itself. So that's something that we had a lot of. And yeah, I think basically that's the general idea with Albatross right now.
Thank you. The next question from the same user, from Rob, is about the keyguard and the new keyguard that we're planning to release that you can test it right now in the testnet. And the new keyguard, how easy will it be to integrate in an existing website? Is it reworked with only NIM in mind, or might be ready to support fiat or crosschain tokens? So who wants to answer that one?
The idea behind the new keyguard, actually the whole reason why we are redoing is to make it easier to integrate into existing web pages, in particular to support the new checkout flow, so integration with shops and merchants. So is the new keyguard reworked with only NIM in mind? So right now it only supports NIM, but we are thinking or considering adding more currencies in the future. And the same also holds for out-of-the-box fiat currencies.
The next is from Tylerand. Next question. And well, it's also a different question from Tylerand. The first one is, what does Team Nimiq think of the rise of DAG-based protocols? Recently in the industry, notable in terms and robustness and security. Did the team already experiment with DAG? So I think that's a question for Pascal.
Yeah, so of course, DAGs, they have their advantages, but also their disadvantages. Like all the other protocols, there's a trade-off to be made. And I think the largest disadvantage for our case of DAG-based protocols is that they are mostly designed for UTXO-based scenarios. And in these cases, it works quite well. But if you have contracts, for example, or in general state-based protocols, it's not really clear how to define the current state, and that's a bit problematic with DAG-based protocols. And so we considered them, but we don't think they are very suitable for our use case.
The other question that Talirad presents is, how do you plan to encourage liquidity on the network and compensate for the double incentive to hoard NIM with POS, proof of stake, compared to proof of work? So that is kind of an economic question that I think right now, since we're building Albatross for a testnet, is like not part of the technical scenario that we're looking into. So I think maybe that one we can skip it. And the other one is also an assumption, because he says, if we go for the staking route, do you have some ideas to make it as easy? Oh, well, no, that one is actually nice. If we go down the staking route, do you have some ideas to make it as easy as possible to stake?
So staking can basically mean two things. So basically it means betting your money on some validator doing the correct job and also doing the validator job. So staking, like betting your money on a particular validator, will be very easy because it's basically just signing a transaction and sending a transaction. Running a validator will require technical knowledge, and also, it will require technical knowledge.
Question number 3 from Rob. Will NIM be used or listed on Agora Trade before the transition to Albatross or other consensus model? Are there any technical hiccups that prevent NIM for being used in Agora Trade? Oh.
So we are not Agora Trade, so we don't know when it will be integrated, but from the technical point of view, there's nothing preventing it being integrated before switching to Nimiq 2.0. So there are no technical difficulties from stemming from our chain, basically, and we expect it to be integrated before switching, actually, yes.
Thank you. The next question is from Porcachu. How does Pico consensus work, and how is it different from nano consensus? So, Armin?
So the idea of the Pico consensus is, instead of relying on the history of the chain, to just interview all your peers about the or what they think is the current status of the chain. And while a normal classic Bitcoin full consensus will require you to download all the blocks, or a light consensus on Bitcoin downloads only the block headers, we already have the nano consensus, which allows you to only download a subset of the headers, which will still prove that all the headers are properly created from the blocks. So that already reduces the size of for light clients a lot. But still, it's to download more than one megabyte, for example, in the current system, and will be more over time. So the Pico consensus will not download as much. It will only get some information from all the surrounding nodes in the network and ask them what is their belief of the current status of the chain. And once you know that everyone has the same idea of what the network should be, you can already know that this is the right chain actually that you're operating on, because it's what everyone in the network is accepting as a current chain. So the problem with this algorithm is obviously that if there's two different chains, like a fork happening right now on the network, then you will only see that the people will have different idea of what the current network is, and at that point you will not be able to get a consensus between all the nodes, because there's different opinions on the network. And in that case, the Pico consensus will only be able to fall back to the nano consensus again. So it's an optimistic approach. We don't know in all cases. We cannot get the Pico consensus to always get a consensus on the network, but in most cases it will be able to do.
Thank you. So, did Team Nimiq explore any privacy options when designing Nimiq 2.0? If yes, what are they?
Okay. Yes, we have looked into different solutions for privacy, and we want to integrate something giving privacy to the users, like private transactions. There are certain trade-offs to be made. For example, there's a very recent paper called Tether, which introduces private transactions basically in a system like Ethereum. We've looked at that. That has its advantages and its disadvantages, but there are also other privacy solutions like Monero or Zcash, what they use. And usually those based on UTXO. There are much more solutions based on UTXO transactions, and they often require, or they always require you to scan the whole chain, all transactions, to find those that were incoming to you. And that's a disadvantage of these solutions. But on the other hand, they have better privacy guarantees compared to Tether, for example. And so we're exploring these options, and we haven't decided on one solution yet.
Will Nimiq be integrated in classical payment terminals? This should be possible thanks to Oasis. You could call it the service Nimiq Pay. Ilian.
I don't think we have an answer to that question yet. I think we would like to. I think we're looking definitely in that direction, and I think we are exploring solutions on the way to getting there. And we actually have some ideas that will then support such integration down the road. Yeah, it's not a simple answer. I think it's part of what we're working on, that one day we can do this with Oasis. I don't know what we're going to call the service, but yeah, I don't know. Will Nimiq be integrated in the classical payment terminals? A very open question. I think we want to, and we will do. We will work towards something like this, but I don't know if it's going to be a classical payment terminal, or it's going to be part of mobile payment, or because I think you could argue that classical payment terminals are also going to go away. So everything at its time.
I think there's a community project for point of sale terminals.
Okay.
So that would be then Nimiq only, but under the assumption that Oasis is there, probably.
Yeah, and those Oasis will not be limited to just one token, to Nimiq, right? So I think that a lot of dots are going to be connected there, because there was the question earlier of will we support other tokens as part of the checkout process. A lot of things make sense that we actually look into including others, and as part of that creating options for the user, and then they can determine that Nimiq is just the easiest to use for them, for example. So we're going to leave that open. But yeah, those dots will all be connected in time.
Another question from Porcacho is, when will you publish a new update on the white paper? So actually that is something that we've been working on and should be published in the short term, maybe in the next months. So stay tuned. And I think it's like something that is fairly close to being published. Another question is, any chance Nimiq gets integrated on Liquidity Network? Oh, Janos?
So we're definitely considering that, and we are in talks with Arthur, but I think we have to look deeper into what options are there, and so it's not. Is it right now on the table to actually go further down this path, or?
Yeah, it is.
It
will be something that we'll do in Nimiq 2.0 probably.
Okay, so we will do it in Nimiq 2.0.
But it's not necessarily Liquidity Network. It could be an equivalent solution.
Yeah.
Payment
Okay.
hub, right? That's
So maybe then also some other payment hubs, which we could consider. Yeah.
Okay, next question is, what has changed for sushipools dump mode to be implemented, given that the proposal to implement stratum was rejected during the last time that was proposed?
Okay, so when back when in the meetup in Amsterdam, where the stratum protocol was proposed by some community members, this would have been the first centralized mining protocol on the Nimiq network, and at that point it didn't sound like a good idea for me to have a centralized mining protocol if we also can do decentralized, because decentralized is always better in that sense, but also nowadays with Sushipool and Skypool all implementing their own dump protocol, it has become something usual that the miners do expect from us, and also mining clients start to only implement the dump protocols because it's easier for them to implement dump protocols instead of decentralized protocols. So if we don't want to only a few pools to be usable by these miners that only support dump protocols, we need to have an open implementation of a dump protocol, and until now that wasn't available, so it was time to also provide an open implementation as well.
Yep, thank you. And another question from same user, from Ranje, is with Nimiq 2.0, will there be a proof of stake pool implementation?
Yeah, I think there will be a pool implementation in the sense that multiple people can stake on a different validator, like delegate their funds towards a validator and bet on him behaving correctly. So that would also imply that if that pool validator misbehaves, then your funds would be at stake, but that's not a problem, since most of the time the pool will actually, it's more economically incentivizing for the pool to behave correctly, because it would cost way more if he costs a slash. So basically, yeah, that's how other delegated proof of stake coins to it, and Nimiq will probably go towards the same route.
We will also have something else, so maybe Martin can add the second part to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so just another addition to this is that we're also looking into how we can do decentralized proof of stake pooling, which will allow for the payout to be to be distributed to a central entity, which is a pool, but the validating part will be decentralized, so you get a consistent payout, but still have the decentralized validating. That's basically similar to our decentralized mining protocols right now, and so it makes sense to also try looking into how we can implement such things in the staking system, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you. So question from user Big Mac is, well, there's a little bit of a long question, but basically he's asking about the reward system in Albatross and how it will work and if there's something planned already.
Well, I don't think we have that finalized yet, but the idea will be to try to keep something kind of similar to what we already have on mining, in the sense that, you know, it will be not a thing that will have, you know, every some period or something, but more like a curve that is more softer on the distribution of the coins.
And the total amount will also stay the same.
Yes.
Okay, you can.
That makes sense. So this is another question from Big Mac. If the punishment to a proof of stake validator for a technical glitch or being hacked is a slashing and loss of the stake NIM, will non-technical users of the network be less inclined to stake their NIM for fear of losing it? If this were the case, then only people who would maintain the value of their NIM via block rewards and transaction fees will be people with knowledge of computers and programming. What effect will this have on the security of the network? Will it cause centralization? Will it discourage people from using the network as their NIM would be constantly losing value against their tech-savvy peers?
So I don't think it would cause centralization, because even people with technical skills are decentralized, so they're not one entity. And also it would help the security, and that's actually the idea behind the slashing, such that if the validator is not, for example, correctly running, the validator secure the network, so if they don't work, the network is not secure. And that's why it's incentivized to run a well-behaving validator node.
Another question from Big Mac is, will slash NIM be subtracted from the 21 billion or will new NIM be added?
Actually, the slash NIM in the current model, at least that we're implementing for the testnet, will be given to the validator set for that epoch, which basically means node NIM is destroyed. The same amount of NIM is always available. It's just redistributed to different people.
I would just add to that also, and it also says in the paper that there's this incentive to actually report, for example, forks, because the validator that, not only the validator that reports the fork, but all the validators would then receive a reward for that.
Thanks everybody for sending your questions. Keep sending us questions over Telegram and over Discord, and also in the forum. And I hope these answers clear any doubts. Thank you. See you around.
Bye, guys.
Bye.